Podcast starts now. Wow, 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 wow.
I'm shaking. I have chills.
Well, because it's finally happened.
It's finally happening.
It's finally happening.
This is someone we've wanted to have on for a really long time.
We have such a special episode today because we're not going to spoil who the guest is.
No. We didn't even put it in the title, I don't think.
No, we didn't.
And if we did, if our producer's listening, please go into the mainframe and edit it out. Also, I don't even want it in the back end. I'll say that. It's not that I don't want it in the title in the podcast app. I don't want any file name to contain the name of the guest.
Yeah, at all. And in fact, if our producer's listening, what's up?
Yeah, what's going on?
How are you?
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, and you're killing it.
And if my mom's listening, I want to say, keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And if my mom is listening, I just want to say, you are so talented at calling me at all the worst times throughout the day, every single day of my life, forever, in the past, present, and future.
Yeah. If my dad is listening, I want to say, I just call mom all the time, and it's not like an attack at you.
Yeah.
It's just like, I assume you guys will be together because that's sort of your mom and dad.
And if my sister is listening, I want to say, I can get you like a couple of comp tickets to each of my shows, but once you start asking for 7, 8, 9 friends, we're going to have a problem because I'm running a business here and I would actually like for some people to buy tickets.
Yeah. And if any of my coworkers are listening, I just want to say, I think you're very respectful of our time outside of the office, and I do think by listening you're breaching my trust.
Yeah,
and this
I
is
think
private.
They should stop. I would press stop now. And if my boyfriend's listening, I want to say I was in a bad mood last night, and it's not your fault.
Yeah,
the things that are making me upset have nothing to do with all the various things you've said to me over the last few weeks.
Yeah. And if my boyfriend is listening, I want to say, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
I know how hard it is for you to hear.
Yeah, well, he's not listening, so you don't have to sort of go into this whole. There's no reason to waste tape, as they say in the industry. He's not listening, and he never listening.
Has. Does Matthew listen still?
He does sometimes. He texted me during the Jesse David Fox episode. He listened, and he said, "What is the book that was bleeped?" And I said, "We don't remember," earnestly. But then you remembered.
I did remember eventually.
And it's a juicy one.
Yeah.
And it's not the one people think it is.
It's not the one people think it is, but they might think it.
But they might think it. If you think you gotta go to the first choice, not that one, think second, third, fourth choice. You're probably gonna be right. Probably gonna be right.
One of the things you thought is it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel disrespectful even talking about a past guest when we are introing our guest today.
Yeah. Who we'll get to. We'll get to, have opinions on this.
Yes, and we will. This is someone who has listened to the podcast before. We've been told. I mean, we thought this would be such a big get that we didn't even want to reach out. But then their 15 managers who all work out of their basement got in touch and said, they've been a fan forever since the beginning. And they said they actually love the weirder initial episodes much more than the current, more professional ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
Normally, of course, we'd get so offended at that. And this time, we didn't get offended at all.
No, we said I didn't know they had a sense of humor like that.
Yeah, and I said I actually respect someone who has an alt sensibility. Exactly.
I mean, someone with that amount of power having an alt sensibility, I don't remember the last time that has happened since, honestly, Donald Trump.
This brings up a good question, which I think we'll bring our guest in and talk about this later. But for you, can people with power have an alt sensibility?
Well, I guess that's sort of the difference between aesthetics and politics is listen, Joe Biden can come out and be wearing like big pants, ironic Carhartt t-shirt, maybe a fun piercing. Would you call that having an alt sensibility? Or would you call that, I guess, sort of appropriating alternative aesthetics?
What about when he posts like the Dark Brandon meme?
Yeah.
Is that alt sensibility?
I guess the word I'm struggling with is sensibility, because it actually is sort of between sensibility can be describing an aesthetic thing, or it can be more of an spiritual sensibility. Like someone with an alt sensibility can be wearing a suit and still have an alt sensibility.
That's true.
And I think you can't necessarily have an alt, or maybe you can't. What's deeper, aesthetic or sensibility? I guess is what I'm asking. You know what I mean?
Sensibility.
Sensibility is deeper.
I think sensibility is a mindset.
You can't have an alt sensibility if you're in power. You can have an alt appearance.
Wow.
Like John Fetterman.
Oh, sure.
John Fetterman does not actually have an alt sensibility, but he has an alt appearance, and he was able to trick people into thinking he had an alt sensibility because of that.
Is there anyone in comedy, like high up, that you can think of who has an alt aesthetic but not
sensibility? Oh, that's a really good question.
I'm trying to think, like, where does like Judd Apatow fall? Is that an alt sensibility?
I think it's still there.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it's still there. But
now I'm struggling.
I'm struggling too. Alt, aesthetic, but not sensibility.
Yeah.
Is what we're saying.
Yeah. Andrew Dice Clay. Huh. You know, it's the problem with being such an amazing interviewer and having just groundbreaking questions at any given moment is that they sometimes stump even ourselves.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I'm always trying to challenge the people that I'm, ping-ponging with.
Yeah.
But when that person's myself, I say, well, I've met my match finally, and I'm losing.
I say, stop this game.
Literally.
I am finding, I love asking questions that are somewhat unanswerable and just being like, I assume they'll figure it out.
Yes,
and then
totally.
It's like, nope.
It's actually an attack.
It's fully an attack.
I'm constantly challenging everyone around me.
I even just thought of another one.
Oh my God, what is it?
Ask me one.
Shut up. Okay, all right. Your question to me is famous comedian with alt aesthetic but not alt sensibility.
Yeah.
I mean,
I stumped you again.
Is it Eddie Izzard?
I feel like Eddie Izzard is still alt. I mean, I haven't.
Yeah. I haven't seen their
any
work
of their work in
decades.
So I couldn't speak to it. But I think
who's someone that like looks like Janine Garofalo, but their comedy is like, Larry the Cable Guy. Okay, you know who is alt aesthetic but not alt sensibility? Is that goth girl from NCIS. She's not a comedian, but I'm like,
No,
what are you doing here? Like, so you just sort of like look like that, and that is what you look like in every role, and we just all have to deal with that.
I'm addicted to that girl.
No, she's incredible. I mean, it really is. It's a dying breed of people who are like unique in any way, and also billionaires from being in Hollywood.
Well, I'm like, okay, like a writer wrote this show and was like, of course, well, the person
a goth girl.
The goth girl studies the blood. Like she's like dark and weird. And it's like, so you've never met like anyone that works in a lab. You've never met a goth. You like just like are in your own imagination. And I'm like, that's what more writing should be. No more fact checking.
Yes. No, it's really
no more
true.
Research.
Like, it is such a big swing to be like, there's a goth girl and she studies the blood. Why isn't there someone on Grey's Anatomy who's like rockabilly? Hello?
What's not clicking, people?
Yeah. I want to see someone who is a full-on, like, literally looks like, God, who's that guy with the white rapper with face tattoos?
Riff Raff?
Sure, that's not who I was thinking of.
Post Malone?
Post Malone.
Okay.
Someone who looks like Post Malone, but is literally a lawyer on The Good Wife. Why don't we have that?
Why don't we have that?
I mean, it's fiction. People will be like, oh yeah, that's not what lawyers look like. I'm like, yeah, they also don't look like fucking Juliana Margulies.
They're
not Christine Baranski.
Not at all.
They also don't have an infinite number of clothes that they wear every day.
They also don't have a healthy work-life balance.
They don't have a healthy work-life balance. They're not well lit like that.
No.
And they don't speak without ever saying
They're saying
They're saying
Also, they are lawyers. There's a lot of boring dialogue happening.
That's right. Yeah.
So we're anti-realism.
And I mean, our guests will be able to tell us more about that because they've worked they've worked in film, television.
Well, they've been on NCIS. More than any other guest star, I think.
They did something interesting, which is, people sometimes will get their start on a series like that successfully. I mean, our guest, has Emmys, Oscars, Tonys, Presidential Medal of Freedom, Nobel Peace Prize, and a Nobel Prize for Physics, actually, which they won after the Peace Prize.
I didn't do the research.
Well, I sent you all the materials, but I understand that you have a job. But they did this thing where, you usually get your start, like George Clooney got a start on ER, but then became a huge movie star. Obviously never went or actually, I think he did go back to ER for a stunt guest role.
Sure.
But this guest actually went back to NCIS at the peak of their fame for 7 more seasons.
Yeah. And it changed the game.
And
that's why we talk about it.
That is what started prestige television, is they said, what if we'd cast an Academy Award winning actor with a Nobel Peace Prize on NCIS? After that, who was watching Nicole Kidman, she said, I'm doing Big Little Lies.
And the world was never the same.
That's right. But we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that when we bring the guest in.
Yeah.
One thing I've been thinking about that I don't think we've talked about yet is you brought up me having a job.
Yes.
And right now, me having a job is sort of an excuse for a lot in my life. It's sort of, I can't do this, I'm working. I can't do this, I'm working. How far can I take that?
What do you mean?
How long is that acceptable?
I'm sorry. This is such a has a job once question.
When does it become unacceptable? Is my question.
But that's just sort of what life is. Is that you have a job, and so you can only do certain things, and so you can't always meet someone at 2 p.m. on a weekday.
That's so messed up. I feel that I don't know if I've said this. I feel that having a job has turned me into I feel so much more manly because I'm literally going
you have to wear closed-toed shoes and pants.
And I also am like Misha has to walk the dog. If somebody's going to go to groceries, it's got to be you.
That's what it is that you're going into an office and Misha is working from home. Ergo, Misha is housewife coded and you are businessman coded.
Yeah. And I literally feel the dishes better be done when I get home.
I mean, I feel the opposite way, where both when I've been unemployed and also just when I've worked from home and had a partner that goes into an office, I immediately am like, oh, I am a woman who gave up her career for her kids. And I am bitter. I'm bitter about it. And, and I bet he's having an affair. I bet he's sleeping with a secretary.
In fact, I'm going to sleep with someone.
I'm going to go my lesbian. Watch me.
You think I can't?
Yeah.
I have been before. In fact, I have been the whole time.
I'm going to get in the car and drive away.
Somewhere where I feel safe.
Maybe a boutique hotel in Arizona.
For crying out loud.
Please. So I see. It is difficult to bring it to straight culture, which is in some cultures the topic of this podcast. It is difficult to not always be looking at which archetype am I fitting now. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Because basically what ends up happening is if you are sort of a progressive LGBTQ+, you're not really inventing new ways of living. You're just playing with the ones that exist. You're I'm going to do housewife, but in a fun way. I'm going to do businessman, but in a fun way. I'm going to do literally straight wedding, but make it a little gay.
Yeah. I find that it's very hard to avoid the tropes. I also find that it's in the same way that I was saying, how long can I get away with the job being the reason? How long can I get away with gay being an excuse?
Totally. To
for,
not
being toxic.
Yes. Or for not growing up, or for not following sort of rules of etiquette.
Yeah. I was I feel it's a say you're home for the holidays and someone if there's a straight couple, there's the men let's complain about the men not doing the dishes. And I'm totally the men are so lazy. Meanwhile, I'm not touching a dish, but it's different.
Sure. Yeah. And also when you don't touch a dish, that's not, are you adding to the history of men not touching dishes, or are you doing a new thing?
I'm doing a brand new thing.
You're doing a brand new thing. So then we are reinventing.
It's hard to tell.
Well, you're still navigating the dish, Well,
I'm aware.
Yeah. You are still deciding between the identity of someone who washes dishes and the identity of someone who doesn't wash dishes.
Yeah.
And how absolutely just tragic is that?
Yeah.
I mean, invent a new form of flatware for once.
Yeah, for once in my goddamn life.
I think people should do more unique things just for the sake of trying them out. Take a bowl, eat from the underside of it. Literally turn it around and try to balance your food in the one almost flat part of it and try to eat a soup that way.
Yeah,
I'd like to see you try.
Because you know what? I bet the person that invented the wheel was called crazy too.
That's right.
Whichever guy it was that said the earth revolves around the sun, yeah, he was exiled.
Yeah.
So I think...
Galileo?
That's the one.
Yeah.
You always forget, and it's like I'd almost rather say no one's name than the wrong name.
Yeah.
So I'm like, whoever that guy was.
People need to get back to making inventions in physical space.
Is it possible?
Not apps.
Do you think there's physical things to create still?
I mean,
or did we figure it all out? Is this one of those impossible questions again?
I mean, well, you know what's funny about this question is like it sounds like such a silly icebreaker question, but then what you're actually asking me is what has not been invented yet. It is literally the main. It's
come up with an
question.
Invention.
It's literally like the question that any inventor faces. Like I'm not going to come up with that in the context of improv comedy.
So George, what hasn't been invented?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. My phone's never charged, so whoever can fix that has my vote.
We need Wi-Fi charging.
Yes, we need Wi-Fi charging. We need to figure out a way for mass surveillance for the mass surveillance apparatus to be destroyed wholesale. I need to pick up my phone and I need to turn mass surveillance off when I want to.
There should be an option.
There should be an option. Maybe I understand that we're not going to reinvent the entire police state, but maybe it's that everyone gets like 24 hours of no mass surveillance per year, and they have to pick when they use it. Although I guess that would then make everyone look so guilty because they would obviously be turning it off like when they were doing the bad thing.
Here's a Purge movie idea.
Okay.
I like this idea that it's when you choose it. So it's like Purge, but one person at a time. So like,
but for mass surveillance or for murder, like
for murder,
Purge?
Like in Purge.
Oh, okay. So basically, hold on, because what you're describing is murder just existing, and then afterwards, someone being like, "Oh, sorry, I was doing Purge," and then the lawyer and police officer being like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know, we didn't."
You have to register your Purge day 30 days in advance.
Oh, I see. And then maybe do you need to wear a certain kind of
a yellow vest that says I'm purging?
That says I'm purging, so then people know to run from you and not to like serve you a latte at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Okay.
That actually sounds great to me.
I don't think that does.
Not as a reality, as a beautiful movie premise.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen The Purge?
I think I saw part of one of them.
Okay, I haven't seen
when I was
it.
like in a hotel or something.
I understand. I guess I think it's an interesting enough concept. But I'm also murder is so in your face that I wonder if we can make it a little more subtle. Like what's a different crime that's a little stealing. I think there should be a purge for stealing. I think potentially a purge for public sex.
Not to be gay guy, but
not to be gay. Yeah. I'm like brainstorming ideas for a different Purge movie. Public sex.
Well, I do think the big fatal flaw with the Purge movies that came out however long ago, but no one's said this yet, is sort of like the jump to murder. Yeah. It's sort of like it's all crimes are legal. Well, and so it's like, well...
Oh, wait, that's what it is? All crimes are legal?
Yeah.
Oh, and so of course the worst one is murder.
And so everyone's trying to murder.
Everyone's trying to murder.
And they're like, it's like so fun for everyone to murder. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, yes, you'd probably get a few people trying to murder. We live in a large country with so many different political beliefs. Yes. But it wouldn't be like everybody.
It also is a very straight impulse to frame it around murder rather than more nuanced crimes.
Yeah.
Because in fact, I mean, there's a mumblecore indie film to be written about the Purge, but everyone's doing sort of more niche crimes. I'm talking like, stealing from your boss, like...
Sure. I mean, that's the truth. People would just commit financial crimes.
Financial crimes, but also sort of very morally... Like, what I'm thinking is like guy in a small community stealing from the church. And it's so morally fraught. Mm-hmm. But of course, a church doesn't, it's probably easier to steal from than like a bank, And so something like that, or I don't know, sort of frustrated middle manager who's been passed up for the promotion. I guess I'm just describing different kinds of stealing. What's another crime someone could do? Maybe
arson.
But what would okay. So, and what would their goal be there? Oh, insurance fraud.
Sure.
Setting your house on fire
could just
for
be
insurance.
cathartic.
What would be really funny is you are openly doing arson to get the insurance money, but because it's the Purge, you don't have to lie. So you can just be like, hey, so basically I just burned my house down and I would like the insurance money. And the insurance person's like, well, that's not how that works. You're like, oh no, it was Purge Day. And they're like, oh, say no more.
Say less.
Say less.
I'm like, Purge, do people even want to commit crimes that bad? I think no. It's so cynical. I can't believe we're talking about this.
I don't know. I want to steal pretty bad.
You do?
Yeah.
Huh, I guess I've just never wanted to steal.
Do you not want just like all new clothes constantly?
No.
Oh, can't relate.
I like what I have. Until I don't, of course.
Literally, spending money is the single worst thing I have to do on a daily basis. And if everything could be free, I would be 100% happier. And I crave luxury and I crave expensive things.
That's true. That's true. So where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. A combination of social conditioning and being gay? Next question, bitch. You're saying your rule following streak is really fascinating. Like it's like to be like, I've never thought of doing anything wrong. It's just something. It's very like open the door's cage and the door open the dog's cage door and the dog prefers being in the cage.
Yeah. I mean, it's always been like the idea of truly breaking the rules is like stressful because then it's like everyone's gonna be mad.
Okay, but it's the Purge.
Even so, I'm like, my purge? I'd purge with a good book. I'd purge with a day off where I can just chill out in a field.
That is not what the Purge is.
That's what my hashtag. That's my purge.
Hashtag share your purge.
Like, why do you need to commit a crime to relax? Some of us just need to go to the beach.
Okay, hold on. It's not to relax. The premise of the Purge is not that people are so stressed out that to relax they have to commit murder.
If someone was like, tomorrow you're allowed to commit murder, I would be like, okay.
To be clear, I also would not commit murder.
No, but you would steal.
I would definitely steal.
And I would be like, okay, I'm just going to stay home because everyone's going to be out.
Oh, you're right.
It's going to be a fucking
You're
zoo.
thinking it's a Black Friday. You're like, it's... Actually, that's a really good point. Is like... And maybe that goes back to your idea of the Purge being different for each person. But I do agree that if it was the Purge but for stealing, I ultimately would stay home because it would be too chaotic.
Well, and I'd also be like,
it's like New Year's.
If you're getting something, you know, it feels good to earn it.
I disagree with that. But God, you are... I am shocked at the things you're saying.
I'm not trying
You want a new TV and you think it would feel better if you felt like you earned it rather than if someone just gave it to you for free?
Well... Depends on if I already have a TV or not. If I have a TV and it's working fine, I'm fine with what I have.
The like Midwest wasp is jumping out boots.
If theirs is notably better and they're giving it to me for free, I would take it.
Okay.
But if it's like sort of a like slight upgrade, I'd be like, it's not worth like finding all the plugs again.
Oh, that I agree. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, talk about finding all the plugs in a TV.
I talk about something they should invent. Everything needs to be wireless. Yes.
I'm literally like, why is it so complicated?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Well, I can't remember who said this, but who was it? I think it might have been Bobby on Who Weekly, but he was like, the great equalizer is cables. Mm-hmm. Like, even if you are the richest person in the world, there will be like cables that are sort of in a little bunch in the corner of your room. And yes, maybe you figured out a way to hide that, but you still had to do that. You had to go out and buy something to hide the cables.
Yeah.
And it really is true.
I mean, that's the height of luxury, is hiding the cables.
Yeah, the height of luxury is hiding the cables.
Growing up, my mom was always furious at our cables.
I mean, it's a classic mom thing.
Oh my God. When the controllers became wireless, that like changed our household.
She was like, finally I can breathe.
She literally
that was
like,
her Purge.
She's like, I'm quitting therapy. Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, that's what they should invent, a therapy that works.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I understand that people are still going to school for psychology because I was about to be like, they haven't invented a new one since Freud. That's not true. I understand that they have invented and they're constantly inventing new ones. But I'm like, make it easier for me to make the marketplace easier, not to be capitalist. Make it, I need to be like, these are my problems. How do I fix them?
The way that I know I'm in a genuine anti-intellectual streak in a way that I don't support and I know that I will regret in like
is that you don't
3 months.
You're literally like therapy doesn't work.
I'm literally like annoyed at the process. Like I'm sure it works. I'm sure it's good. But I'm also like, the way that one thing that annoys me about therapy is when you're like sort of saying something And like they're like, oh, let's sort of go into that further. And I'm like, that's not the point. And I'm like, can you just listen to what I'm actually trying to say?
Well, I think it's a balance because I think probably like sometimes it is the point, sometimes it's not the point. And it's a practice that the more you do it, the more you do find the point.
I crave more almost essay style or something. Like I crave like 3 sentences. Like you write them before you go in. You're like, here's what I want to work on. And then they're like, okay, we can talk about this one,
Yeah,
and
but
this
sometimes
one.
you don't know what you want to work on, and that's sort of where a good therapist comes in.
I mean, sure, if you go in and you should be able to write improv style. Like, I don't know, and let's find it together. Let's take an organic
I do find
approach.
the metaphor, sort of comparing it to physical exercise helps, where yes, you can be working towards your perfect beach body, but also you are doing something on a weekly or daily basis that makes you feel better every time you do it, even if leaving the gym, you don't have your perfect beach body. Yeah. And also, you might think you're going to go in, only want to work on butt. Guess what? You got to work on the whole body in order for the butt to pop.
Let's just say sometimes I think people go into the gym that is therapy and just sort of chill in the steam room the whole time.
Oh, interesting.
And I think, sometimes they need to focus up and make use of their time there.
No, that's fair. Well, it is what you make of it, of course.
Of course. Needless to say.
I do think the fact that the freeness of sort of like there are no bad questions, there's nothing, we can spend time on anything. Like, even if sometimes you'll be like, you will yourself be getting distracted and be like, sorry, that's irrelevant. And then the therapist will be like, no, it's not. Say more about that. And you're like, no, it is. If you're affirming everything I'm saying, then I'm talking to a wall.
Yeah. I no, 100%. It's the only therapist. I love couples therapy therapists.
Oh.
That woman. What's her name?
Oh, Orna.
Now that is a damn therapist.
Well, but she does all the things that you say you hate.
That's not true.
I wonder if she would ever come on the pod.
She almost came today.
But then we had to bump her for our guest.
Yeah.
And she understood when we told her.
She understood.
And she said, could we get her an autograph? And we said, no, that is so gauche. We're not going to ask our guest for an autograph.
It's also like we're already asking for autographs for ourselves. And like getting a third one.
Yeah, well, you sort of can't be like, this is for this
TV therapist that I think is smart.
Yeah, they're like, I don't watch TV.
Yeah, because they're a researcher.
They're a researcher, and they haven't watched TV since they were on NCIS.
Yeah, because famously, our guest went on NCIS, created Prestige TV, then had sort of a crisis of self, where they were like, what have I become? I used to be, they trained for acting at Harvard. So they were like used to sort of being among intellectuals. So then they decided to go back to get their PhD and got lost in actually biology.
Well, they went so method for NCIS that they were doing all the actual testing of all the materials and all that stuff during the episodes. And they actually solved some real crimes that were started as based in fiction, but then, talk about therapy, it's not that, it's this. Through exploring a fictionalized world, they solved real world crimes and lives were saved. And that's where the Nobel Peace Prize came from, not the physics one, that was later. And so, they looked around and they said, all my co-stars are absolute fucking morons. These people have barely been to acting school, let alone have a biology PhD.
Yeah.
I can't be spending my time literally killing brain cells talking to this goth bitch. I'm going to go back to school and get a PhD in biology.
Which, I was, when she said that in the Times, I was pretty offended at the, how hateful she was towards the goth.
Yes. And there we go. We have now said the pronoun. We've been trying to hide who it was. It is a woman.
Yeah.
It's a she.
Yeah.
But it's also someone who
plays with gender.
There's
no way around it.
It is one of the first people to play with gender, actually.
You know how I played with gender recently?
How?
I got a UTI.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. And now it's over?
For the most part.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that?
Listeners will know I had a catheter in.
Did you feel like getting a UTI sort of brought you closer to your feminine side?
100%.
Yeah.
I said, damn, I can't believe women go through this every day.
Well, they don't have a UTI every day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
But
I can't believe women go through this every other day.
yeah, every day they get a UTI, then get on antibiotics, then it
I can't believe women go through this Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fine. And I'm still, the antibiotics end tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, someone was drinking on antibiotics last night, I'll tell you that.
Oh, and I asked, and they said, go for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said, Diva, be yourself.
I've always thought that was a myth.
She was like, don't like take the pill with alcohol, but like you can
why
drink. Yeah, I was like, well,
yeah, it's like,
what?
Okay, great. I guess I'll wait 20 minutes and then drink.
Yeah, well, I guess this is my purge
fake.
then. Is that
I don't like when people. I feel like sometimes medical professionals will talk down to you and try to like meet you at your level. And I'm like, no, talk to me like you would talk to the head of surgery at Cedars-Sinai.
It was funny because anyone I would talk to, like. That I was like, I think I have a UTI because I had this surgery and I have a catheter. And they were like, oh, well, since you're a man and men never get these, I think it's probably
you need to
true.
be studied.
They were really like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
When the doctor like, I went to an urgent care eventually because the normal doctor couldn't see me that day. And I was like, this is urgent.
The normal doctor is obsessed with ignoring you.
Oh, yeah. It's sort of our little game.
Yeah.
But the urgent care doctor was like, so, do you have any discharge from your vagina?
Oh my God.
And I was like,
so they have like questions that they ask everyone.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, you should have been like, yes.
Yes, actually.
What should I do?
Yeah.
He's like, it's worse than I thought.
Yeah.
Got so much medical talk on the pod recently.
I know. We're in our medical era, and that's okay.
That's okay. I mean, much like our guest.
Destigmatize it.
Destigmatize medical.
Medical is stigmatized in our culture.
It doesn't have to always be bad. It can be an elective surgery, a BBL.
A BBL.
BBM? No, BBL.
BBL.
Brazilian British butt lift. You go in and get your ass looking like friggin' Mary Berry. British butt lift. British butt lift. You go in and get a butt that looks sort of like a middle-aged British woman.
That is so
it's like
funny.
Mrs.
Proper bum.
Proper bum. British bum lift.
Wow.
That's what Judi Dench got. That's what all the Shakespearean actresses get, a British bum lift.
Yeah. They're nothing until they get that British bum lift.
Yeah, and you think, oh, she's so sophisticated, Judi Dench. Guess what? That ass is fake, my friend.
Yeah, when she turns around, you're like,
auga.
You're like, well, but then theater people are like, well, they all do theater acting, so they need like an ass for the theater that you can see from the audience.
My mom always said this. She's like, she's like, I don't criticize performers for having face work because you need to be like, that's their job. You need to be viewed from across the stage. And that's sort of how I feel about Judi Dench's giant dump trunk ass.
Yeah.
As I say, she's in the theater.
She's in the theater.
It might not come through in Shakespeare in Love.
It's like how you do theater makeup,
Exactly.
It just has to be a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
So shout out to the Brits.
Shout out to the Brits, and shout out to getting a British bum lift, the hottest new surgery.
But this will be the end of our medical talk.
Well, let's hope so. Knock on wood.
Oh, good point.
I'm not going to knock on it because we've been criticized for knocking on the table in the past. Anyway, so yeah. So thank you for sticking with us throughout our medical era.
I think they're going to be doing more than sticking with us. I think they're going to be celebrating.
Oh, absolutely. People are going to go out there and get a UTI in celebration. Get a British bum lift. They're going to say, I'm no longer feeling insecure about going into a hospital. Okay, so we've figured out the purge.
We figured out gender fluidity.
Yeah.
We figured out...
Wait, gender fluidity is, when a man has a UTI. Right. Gender fluidity is when a man has a UTI. Good acting is when a woman has a British bum lift. And the purge is when you think about stealing a TV, but then decide it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I have a question. Back to that shopping thing / stealing thing.
Yes.
If somebody was like, okay, let's say there's a $1,000 shirt.
Yes.
This shirt is insanely expensive. And then you go there and the shirt is on sale for $10. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about it?
I buy it? I cannot express how simple, both morally and like logistically, these questions are for me. Like,
I guess
I have no idea where you're coming from.
I think part of me is like, okay, well, something must be wrong with it.
I guess
They
we'll
cut
figure it
all
out.
that money off?
It's only $10.
That's true. I mean, I would also probably buy it, but I wouldn't feel like I'm getting $1,000 shirt. It would feel like I'm getting like a shirt that's probably messed up.
Oh, and I mean, for me, I'm like always looking for, I'm on the real. I'm looking for like, the other day I found this like stunning vintage suit that was like $400, which is cheaper than you would get at like J. Crew. I currently can't even afford that, believe it or not. But I was like, what? I mean, that is like so much of my shopping habits is like attempting to find deals on things that are expensive.
Oh. Different.
You're like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who cares?
I'm telling you, the feeling of having these pants, I believe, are like on like 80% clearance. The feeling of knowing you're wearing something that someone else could have at some point paid like $1,200 for.
Sure. You feel like you're getting away with
electric.
something.
And also you do feel the difference in quality, I gotta say.
So a clearance sale is your purge.
Sample sale, clearance sale, real vintage, going into a high profile vintage store, trying to find a garment that is marked down. Oh yeah, baby. Talk about gender fluidity. I'm wet.
Well, that's incredible.
Thanks.
Okay, well, I'm like, should we bring in our guest? You know what? No, actually, I don't think we should bring them in yet.
I don't know. I think they've arrived. They've put them in a safe room because they are allergic to the sun.
Yeah, they are hiding in the safe room, and we have an incredible safe room here at iHeart.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had it built specifically for the guest.
Yeah.
This guest actually has the world record for most allergies, so she can't really be outside or in public, which is difficult because her work contains a lot of field work in the Amazon and in the Andes and in various other sort of faraway locales.
Yeah. And, we were like, we could Zoom, like, we don't have to do it in studio.
Yeah,
like,
but she was like, I don't know what that is.
Literally was like, I may have a PhD, but I don't know how to work a laptop.
She's never been online.
Which is what is so, like, we don't have old Hollywood like that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, there used to be a time when you didn't have to be your own social media manager. You could just be an actor and be a PhD graduate and be a researcher.
Yeah. Well, that time is over. And it's because of Mark Zuckerberg.
That's true.
But now she's here. Yes, she doesn't have a computer, doesn't know what Zoom is, but huge fan of our podcast somehow. She pays a team to press it into vinyl, and then they play it for her at home in one of her many vacation homes that is deeply sanitized and cleaned in order to deal with all her allergies. And she sits down, and it's the one break she takes every week.
Yeah.
She actually has gotten surgery so that she doesn't need to sleep. She has constant REM cycles while awake. And the one thing she does to relax every week is sit down, have a cup of herbal tea, and listen to the podcast. And it's sweet.
Yeah, that's really sweet of her. So what's your sleep schedule like?
I can't read your tone today.
I'm just trying to throw noodles at the wall.
Yeah. Do you find that... Okay, here's something. All right. What I'm trying to talk around is like the jet lag between the two coasts, which is small enough that no one would ever feel bad for you for having it. But then you're like, but I'm suffering because I am waking up at like 11:30 or not being able to fall asleep at night. And I think there should be a word for things that are not severe enough that you can actually complain about them and have people feel bad for you, but are still ruining your life. It's like, it's like being like constipated or something. We're like, well, you're not going to go around telling everyone you're constipated and they're going to like do a fundraiser for you. But it is still the number one thing on your mind for that whole day.
That's true. I mean, it's like there's almost like a purgatory-esque feeling to these things where it's like you're not in hell, but you're
not
close.
In heaven. It's sort of like the idea of microaggressions, like something isn't fully fully problematic in some way, but you can sense it and you know that it stems from a sort of bias. It's like,
so maybe a micro crisis.
Yeah, exactly. Micro crisis, micro problem.
I like crisis. It adds a little drama to it.
Yeah.
I'm having a micro crisis. I'm not sleeping right because
You're not. Yes, exactly.
I woke up, but kind of in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up at 8 a.m. today. I should have woken up at like 11.
Woken up at 11. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, sometimes your body is just confused.
That's true.
Should we bring in our guest?
I don't know yet. Like, it's tough because like once we start talking with her, it's gonna be like just firing on all cylinders, and I don't like. I just like want to give the audience some time to like have some downtime before we're just like go.
Yeah. Well, the number one feedback we've gotten generally is that our intro should be longer, and we've always been like, yeah, but we want to talk to our guest.
Yeah.
But I do think in this instance, less is more. Sometimes when you meet someone, let's say you meet your number one idol, if you were to meet your number one idol, would you rather be forced to have like an hour-long conversation with them? Or in order to not risk embarrassing yourself in some way or saying the wrong thing, would you rather basically have like a 3-minute conversation with them?
3-minute conversation with them.
I think me too. And then leave them wanting more. Really go in with all charm, all charisma, say like the smartest thing you've ever said, and then be like, I'm so sorry, I have reservations.
What's one of the saddest things ever is when people talk to you and like assume instantly some things about you and like kind of wholeheartedly, and you see the context clues that they saw to think that they could say that stuff to you, and then it doesn't. You're like, actually, that's not me. Like, I don't know if it. I'll say, one time when I like met with Alan Cumming, and he was like instantly talking to me exclusively about like theater girls from the past.
You're a gay guy,
and because I'm a gay guy, and it was like this thing where I had to be like that's. But I'm the different kind of gay guy. Like, I'm not a theater.
I'm a new one they created since you've come of age.
And I was like, he was being so friendly and like cool.
But you weren't getting any of the references.
I was like, I just truly have never heard any of these names. These, like, I can't have an opinion. I'm just sort of like, yes, I believe you that she's like that. And it wasn't like, I couldn't even be like, wow, really? Like, I couldn't even fake excitement because I was just like, I don't know these people.
Getting to know you deeply over the last, better part of a decade. One of the things that I so recognize is when you have the panic look in your eye when someone has said something that you are like, I don't know what to say to that. It's so like deeply apparent.
Yeah. It's tough. I've had that I had it with Alan Cumming, and then I also want to like. I feel like it happens a lot when you tell people you do comedy and they don't know you at all.
Sure.
Like if it's like, because then they're like, either of course they're like, oh, I love Joe Rogan podcast.
Yes.
And then, one time I actually felt bad for this woman because there was something about it where I was like, oh, you're coming at this from like a sweet place, but you're incorrect. But it was like, you must love crashing.
Wow.
And I was like...
And for listeners at home, it's HBO's Crashing, which is a series created by Pete Holmes approximately, I want to say 2016. It surely was greenlit by President Donald Trump. And it was about the stand-up comedy scene.
Yeah. And I really feel... It was sort of, I think, I do think normal people were like, this is a fine show. And I think like Brooklyn-based comedians were like, what the fuck?
But that's like, it's so funny because when it hits close to home, you feel so personally slighted by something. But then we go around doing that for every other job. It's literally like if someone was like, I'm trying to think. Literally the year Tar came out, I met someone at a party and they were a composer, and I was like, don't say it, but I couldn't not. I was literally like, don't say it. It's what everyone has been asking about this person for the last like 6 months, surely, since the film came out. But I was like, I can't not.
Wow. And what did they say? They stormed out?
I gotta say, I thought their answer was so flop. I was like, you are not interacting. You are not like processing this film in like an interesting way.
They were just like, she held the baton.
No, it was literally like, I think the thing they said was something along the lines of like, there are so few women composers that it's like sad that this is a story they wanted to tell about like a woman composer who's abusive and toxic. And I'm like, I guess, like, I don't care about that. like, I'm like, well, it's a movie. Do you know about what that is? Have you ever composed for a movie before, maybe? Do you need to go back to Montessori school?
That is so funny. Because it's not like female composers are like discriminated against in our culture. Like,
well, they are certainly discriminated against within
I'm sure
of the industry and
but
within
what
every
I mean
industry.
is like it's not like there's like a reputation already of like
right, exactly,
like of female composers being abusive. Like it's like, well, I would never have a female composer for my piece because let's face it,
I mean, he was essentially doing like a representation argument of, it's like when people are like, why do all queer stories have to be tragic or whatever? He's sort of doing that, I guess. But I was just like, oh, never mind.
I don't know. That's such an LOL to me.
Yeah. But anyway, my point is that if anything, actually, I mean, and it's sort of sad to admit, I think Crashing is probably closer to the truth for comedy than probably, I don't know, Grey's Anatomy is for medicine.
That's
and yet
true.
doctors have to just live their life with everyone coming to them and being like, so have you ever like had a threesome in the closet right after like doing a surgery where someone died? And they're like, no.
Some of them have, though.
That's true.
I mean, there are little beds in there.
Yeah.
And they're there for so many hours. Also, okay. You know, okay, two things. One, you know what I actually think did get doctors right? Scrubs. When I first went to the hospital, I was like, oh my God, this is just like Scrubs.
Well, I do think you're pointing to something which is like, which is that medicine seems like this serious thing. And obviously it is. They are saving lives / killing lives sometimes. And so, of course, there's no room for comedy. But just like anything else, everyone's like figuring it out as they go.
Yeah. And like the way that it reduced like certain departments to types.
Yeah.
And then I would be like, clearly like surgeons aren't the jocks. And then you meet the surgeon and you're like, oh my God, you're a jock.
They're absolutely the jocks.
And it's so weird.
Yeah.
But then the other thing, accurate jobs are not. I remember when The Office was on TV and my dad being like mad at it because he was like, this is too real.
100%.
And I was like, seems funny. And he's
mean, I've heard that so much about Succession. Because
sure.
I almost think it's close enough to being, if not realistic, then sort of fact checked. You know what I mean? Like that people that are outside the business world are like, wow, we're getting a peek into what it's really like. And then people who actually work in any sort of in the media industry or in news or whatever are like, yeah, that's not how it is.
The other one, I felt like the other two, I actually had to stop watching because I was like,
it's too accurate.
This is too like
it is
accurate.
How everyone is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was sort of like, oh, like it felt like, have you ever like, when people are like truly losing their mind and like think like someone in the TV is speaking to them.
Yes.
I started to feel like that. I was like, oh, is this making fun of me directly?
Yeah, totally.
Like,
and in some ways, yeah.
Yeah.
And with the other two, you are almost like, oh my God, we're not telling people that. I thought that was a secret that we had to keep. Like, we're not telling people that's how it actually is on the inside.
Yeah. It was, yeah. I was just like, ugh. But that's the only thing that I feel like nailed the I felt really skewered by.
It's also so difficult. I don't know, when you write something, like so many things have to come together for something to actually be that accurate of a representation. Like, it's sort of a miracle that show got made and was good as it was, to me.
Well, the tenacity of...
Let's cut that. Let's actually cut that entire segment.
The whole segment, huh?
Yeah.
Let's cut the whole app.
Let's cut the whole app.
Who cares?
We'll edit down this intro and it'll be only 12 minutes long and then we'll bring in our guest.
Yeah, then we'll bring in our guest.
Champing at the bit. She's
chomping on a sandwich.
She's
hungry.
chomping on a sandwich. It's only bread because it's the only thing she can eat.
Yeah, but she hasn't eating all day.
Oh, she's having convulsions. She's having a huge allergic reaction.
Oh, we're gonna have to get medics.
Medics. Oh, I guess our medical era is back on, folks.
Medics. Which Scrubs character are you?
You know, she's sort of, and I can see that she gets her sense of humor, and she thinks it's funny that we're doing this like really long intro. She's like, okay, they're back to their roots. They're back to their improv roots. This feels like episode 4 all over again.
Yeah.
We are doing like random bits, callbacks. It feels so, UCB circa 2001, right after 9/11.
Totally. When the city could finally laugh again.
Yeah, the day after 9/11, when the city could finally laugh again. He said, I got a good night's sleep. Now let's fucking go. I have a show at the Cellar tonight, and I'm doing it all about Al Qaeda.
I needed 8 hours of research, and I'm good to fucking go.
After 9/11, I said, I need a nap. Raise your hand if you need a nap, because this is stressful, y'all. And then I woke up and I said, let's get to work.
Let's get to work. It's time to laugh.
What war can we start? That would make me feel so much better right now.
Oh my God. Could you imagine being a comedian then?
I mean, I guess the options, I mean, the only thing I can think of, which is so not what I want to talk about, is how Bill Maher, lost his show because he said something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was one of the brave truth tellers.
Damn. Well, good for him, I guess.
Good for him. I guess it wasn't impactful enough for me to remember what it was, but...
Yeah.
You know, the film Kissing Jessica Stein had its premiere on 9/11 at a film festival. This is a story. I saw a Q&A where they were talking about this. It was like a morning premiere or sort of noon or 1 p.m. because it was not a big movie, such a gay indie. And I think the story is maybe that they went in and then 9/11 happened as it was playing and they came out. Or it might have been that because there was no internet, 9/11 happened, in the 2 hours leading up to it, but they were so busy preparing that they were not watching the news. And so they're just la 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 la, time for the Q&A. Meanwhile, 9/11 is fully happening.
Wow.
And she's like, yeah, I wanted to explore LGBTQ+. And it's well, that's not enough to stop the terrorists.
Wow. That's tough. You know what's something, how you were talking about how you want to stop looking at Instagram?
Yes.
I want to stop saying the word random.
You don't say it that much, I think.
I feel like I say it so much and I think it's a crutch. I'll be like I randomly did this.
Oh, random. Yes. Well, actually randomly as an adverb to me is even worse than random as an adjective. And
it's I do want to, I guess, you're sort of I'm trying to imply I'm not taking this seriously.
Right.
But it's hard. It's out of vogue.
Well, yeah, it's been out of vogue, I would say.
But not in a way that I'm not talking about randomly as as a laugh line.
As a laugh line.
I'm talking about it as as a flourish, sort of.
Sure. You know what I feel that way about? Although this is, I think, maybe sometimes used a laugh line, but a huge pet peeve of mine is casual. I casually, or talking about a friend of yours that you're proud of and being yeah, she casually graduated with a 5.0 GPA. I don't like that. Or oh, yeah, I'm casually, I don't know, flying to Paris or what. The ironically saying casually when something is difficult.
Yeah. Casual. Yeah,
exactly. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I think I maybe like it less than random.
Wow. But you know what has never wavered for me, actually? What? I'm actually more in on literally than I've ever been in my life.
Huh.
I think literally is standing the test of time. And I just think
this is the best episode we've ever recorded. I think everyone agrees.
First of all, I think this is a groundbreaking episode. I think our guest...
Oh, ground has been broken. There is an earthquake because God is angry and he's get those faggots out of the studio now.
This is a good episode. Okay? We're trying to play with the form.
I literally feel at any point I could start crying.
This is... Okay. when podcasting, when you zoom out, like you have to talk about little minutia of stuff. Yeah. And the moment you zoom out and you're like, what are we doing here? Of course it sounds stupid.
Yeah.
But it's like, but if you really commit, that little thing can lead to something else. But no, I sound crazy now.
I mean, and I'm going to say this without spilling the truth.
Okay.
What I'm struggling with is someone listening and being like, why are they doing this? And the truth is, and without saying anything specific, the truth is, due to unexpected circumstances, we have studio time, and we did. Is that okay for me to say? No, you don't want to go to the truth.
I am shocked.
Okay.
You know, to commit this long.
Yeah.
And then apologize.
Well, I guess I'm just getting nervous about our guest.
Well, what's to be nervous about? She's going to be incredible when,
and so I
when
made
she
up
heals.
I guess I wanted to make up a whole thing about how we were supposed to have a guest come and then they canceled, and so now we're doing this random episode. But I don't know. I guess I want it to be like, oh, whatever. I could take it or leave it. I don't care about her, about the guest. But ultimately, it's because I'm nervous.
Yeah. Yeah. You're trying to get out of inviting her. Into
and even
the
now, I'm like,
conversation.
what if she comes in and I get so nervous that I pee my pants?
Yeah.
Something I've done multiple times. Every time we've had a big guest.
Anytime. You can tell when George likes a guest because
I'll be peeing. I'll be peeing.
Yeah.
I be peeing.
Yeah, the guests all refer to it as the wet seal of approval.
The wet seal of approval is George pissing in his chair. Everyone in the room says, not again.
Well, but the guest says, I didn't. It's like getting a Paul Hollywood handshake.
That's right. Oh my God, that is so true. Is me peeing is like getting a Paul Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people don't get one and they think about it the rest of their lives. And they know they're not going to be invited back.
You'll never guess what happened.
What?
My mom has called me twice in the span of this episode. Absolute queen. Absolute queen of calling every single time we are recording.
The way that you predicted that at the very beginning.
It's just like...
Do you want to, say something if she's listening right now?
No. Well, you know what? I do want to say something, which is I have been very bad recently about getting frustrated with her.
Like you've been doing it easily, or you haven't been doing it with enough gusto?
I just, when parents are just being parents.
True.
And you have to find a way to be chill with that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you forget that. And you treat them as though they're normal people who are not parents.
But sometimes they can edit their behavior slightly. And so you should tell them when what they're doing isn't working for you.
One time my mom just very casually, to use the term I hate, we were talking about something else and I was like, I hope he does this. I legitimately cannot tell you what it was about. And she just very casually, matter-of-factly goes, well, people don't change. Anyway, and then it was just like something that she has decided. Like, she was just like, yeah, I mean, well, it would be nice if people could change, but of course, scientifically they can't. So what's the plan B?
Your mom's very decisive.
She's very decisive. She's in fact an incredibly intelligent, genuinely incredibly intelligent person. So smart. But really, is not does not question things she thinks she knows.
Yeah.
And sometimes you will question something and she'll be like completely shocked. And maybe you can convince her, but she'll be like, it is insane that you ever questioned that people could change.
Well,
anyway,
I just agree with her. I think people can change. And George's mom, if you're listening, I think you need to
people can change. Like, one day they say they're going to do the podcast and the next day they don't.
I can't believe.
Sorry. This is how, that this is one of our main differences.
This is one of our main differences.
I like addressing the awkward thing. I like addressing the elephant in the room and you don't.
Well, it depends. If it's like, I like addressing the awkward thing if it's like more in a positive direction. I don't like addressing the awkward thing if it's like sort of just leading to like, if it's sort of as a way of apologizing for being here. Like if it's sort of being like, so it's not as good as it would have been, but...
No, you're right, you're right. But yeah, I guess I mean, maybe you are completely right and I need to fully like get on board. And I think we've sort of found a middle ground. I'm not talking about this, I'm talking about generally, like in our performances.
Yeah.
I think we found a middle ground. But there is a part of me that's like, but you gotta, it's very alt comedy to be like, you gotta talk about the one thing you don't want to talk about.
I mean, I know what you mean,
Yes.
and I think I generally agree.
Yeah.
There's just something about, like, you also have to, like, the audience has to trust you. Like, they're looking to you for guidance, I think.
Sure.
And so if you're like, this one's not as good as this as it would have been,
But I would never. I see what you're saying.
then they'll be like, yeah, this
But what if
one's not as
something
good.
even better comes out of that uncertainty?
Well, and I just think it's the way it's presented, and that's all that matters.
I mean, this is something our guest knows a lot about because she also has a degree in psychology, social psychology.
Well, and she started as a comedian.
And as a mental patient.
She was the Joker.
She was
what the Joker is based on.
It's actually so funny. She was still a teenager, actually.
Yeah.
And
she was mentally unwell.
She was mentally
and doing
unwell.
open mics.
And not in the way that we're now destigmatizing, actually in the way that is still stigmatized to this day.
Let's just say when she heard about the Purge, she said, I would like to do that.
Yeah, she actually invented the Purge.
Yeah.
And
she ran for office. And when people, it was actually, it's sort of that psychopathic behavior where you're so convincing that people don't recognize that you're a psychopath. Yeah.
Invented the Purge. Purge happened. Literally millions of people died. And then finally, a Democrat was elected. And he was like, hello, this woman is fucking insane, y'all. And so then they put her, the government placed her in a sort of facility like American Horror Story Asylum.
Yeah.
She was placed there for hysteria.
Yeah. And who was in her cell? An acting coach.
And the acting coach says, girlfriend, you have something.
You have passion. You have fire.
Passion. Now, of course, the acting coach, also a mental patient. So it was a bit difficult because a lot of stuff was like getting lost in translation. I mean, these women were eating like balls of foam, punching the wall, trying to escape. I mean, it was difficult for sure.
But that's why she's such an incredible performer. She knows how to use her body. She knows how to use her face. Her vocal range is insane.
She's has more vocal range than Mariah Carey, and her holiday albums have sold more than All I Want for Christmas Is You. But the issue is all of them are wildly problematic. The lyrics are offensive in a way that I didn't even know was possible.
Yeah.
Because she wrote them all while in the asylum.
But she's apologized for that.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
people change.
Of course.
Sorry, George's mom, people change.
Yeah, no, and I've told my mom hates this person because she says that's a witch. People don't change. She's a witch.
She's a witch. And that's why your mom is called twice, because she had a feeling.
Yeah, well, she was like, I can't believe they're having that woman on. I'm going to disown my gay son, not because he's gay, because he's having my nemesis on his podcast.
But let's just say that he wouldn't have my nemesis on if he wasn't gay.
Well, of course, needless to say. I mean, she's a gay icon. That is undoubted. I mean,
that's where it gets complicated.
She literally is female Joker, was in an asylum, learned acting in an asylum, became an actress, went on NCIS, decided to do a PhD in biology because she started doing all the work for real on NCIS, then went back to NCIS as a joke.
As a bit.
Got an Emmy on that season. First season back, got an Emmy.
On screen for 5 minutes.
Then immediately was like, I got to go to the lab because I'm a biologist. Got a Nobel Prize.
Yeah. Invented the antibiotic that you can drink on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, at the asylum, she kept getting UTIs and people thought she was lying because she was, of course, an insane person. But
believe women, y'all.
Believe women, and it was The Boy Who Cried UTI.
Yeah.
Which is the title of her memoir, out now from W. Norton.
Wow.
W. Norton? Whatever. It's one of the big publishers.
Yeah, one of those really big publishers.
Big book, huge book. It's a coffee table book.
Everyone's loving it.
It's the first memoir released as the size of a coffee table book, but it's all text.
And it's already getting to that point where some people are making fun of it as a trope that people will have in their nice home.
Yes, exactly.
To stage it.
The Boy Who Cried UTI. See, that's talk about gender play. She's a woman.
She's a woman.
Her memoir called The Boy Who Cried UTI. It's about her time in the asylum and in office.
Yeah. Huh.
But she's not without her flaws.
Of course. Your mom has some good points.
My mom has some good points. I mean, she does still, on occasion, murder.
Well, as long as she schedules her purge date 30 days in advance.
Of course, but the thing is, the purge is no longer legal in this country. They made it illegal back when they sent her to the asylum. But she refuses, because she's not on the internet, she doesn't know that the law has changed.
Oh God. She's just not finding out.
She's just not finding out. She's mouthing sorry. It's okay.
It's okay. We forgive you.
Yeah. Oh, bloody knife. Okay.
She killed someone at
She killed someone at iHeart. Oh my
God.
Wow.
Could someone clean that up?
They're so nice here.
Yeah, I love it.
They're always cleaning up either my piss or someone's blood that our guest murdered.
Okay, well, let's bring in our guest.
Yeah. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Janelle Monáe.